Krishna Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Bhacharani Navasesha Sanyavadi Praskati Vesatari. Om Agyanataminandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chaksu Samidatan Jaina Tasmat Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Caitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Padantikam. Vanchakalpatrubhasya Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Bhavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Let us relish the amazing pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, describing in the village of Ramuna how Madhavendra Puri, who was wandering in Braja at this time, he was sitting by Govinda Kund, and raise your hand if you've been to Govinda Kund. What?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Have you been to Govardhan Hill?
I think so, yeah.
But you must have been when you were extremely little.
Yeah.
Maybe last life.
No, I just got this life.
So if you've been to Govardhan Hill, you've been to Govinda Kund, at least pass by it.
Yeah, I don't remember.
That's the place where Krishna was bathed and crowned the king of the cows, and therefore that's where he got the name Govinda, the Indra of the of the cows, because the cows they were thinking, led by Surabhi, what is the use of this Indra? He's given us so much trouble. He's put down rain, and you protected us in thunderbolts, and he raised Giriraj Govardhan. And he is really our Lord. He is really our protector. So you are from now on Govinda. So that's where Krishna got the name Govinda. So while Madhavendra Puri was sitting there, and one of the characteristics, amazing characteristics of Madhavendra Puri, he was so detached from his physical bodily life, which meant that he was living on a different realm of existence that cannot be imitated by those who are not on that level of Krishna consciousness. He was living in the internal realm and practicing devotional service in that way, with so much devotion, so much love for Krishna, and so detached from the externals of life, including eating, that he didn't carry any money with him, any credit cards, any what to speak of an Apple iPhone 13 Pro. He didn't have any things that are really necessary, but still he had the most and only really necessary thing, fully living in his relationship with Krishna and depending on Krishna. So he didn't have any food to eat, and he didn't cook for himself, and he didn't even beg for food. Nowadays, but always in Vrindavan there was a culture, and that continues even to this day, that if you go to a Brijbasi's house and you go outside and say Madhukari, then they will feed you, give you some milk, some yogurt, maybe some fat Brijbasi roti and some vegetable. But Madhavendra Puri didn't even do that. He thought, his thinking was that if I'm dependent on Krishna, if he's going to feed me, if he wants to feed me, he's going to feed me. I don't need to ask anyone. So Madhavendra Puri didn't ask anyone, and what would happen if one didn't ask anyone for food, or didn't look for food, or cook for oneself? What would everyone be afraid of? That they'd have to fast, and fasting is actually the greatest of pains, practically speaking, most difficult. Therefore, when people are hungry, in any cultured place, any place where there's compassion, those who have food will feed them, because they know how difficult it is, the pain of hunger pangs it is called, but hunger pains. But Madhavendra Puri was on a different level. So he was fasting and he didn't care, because he was internally absorbed. But Krishna came to him, personally came to him, and said, "Oh, my dear sadhu, why are you fasting? Here, please take this milk." How did you know I was fasting? How do you know I haven't eaten? Oh, the ladies over there by the well, they saw her and they gave me this. You please take this milk, and later I'll come back for the milk pot. You take it now. But who are you? Oh, excuse me, I have to go right now. It's go duli time. It's time to milk the cows, and I have to go. So Krishna then left. And Madhavendra Puri was thinking, who is this boy? In fact, he didn't only leave, he practically speaking just disappeared. Suddenly, he wasn't there anymore, practically speaking. And Madhavendra Puri was just thinking and thinking about that boy, but he drank the milk, which was especially wonderful. And then he didn't leave the unwashed pot there for the boy when he came back, but rather he washed the pot, and Govinda Kund was right there. And but the boy didn't return. He didn't return. And that night, just towards the end of the night, because Madhavendra Puri not only didn't eat, practically speaking, but practically speaking, he didn't sleep. Again, he was, you could say, solar powered by his soul, by his true self. Braj Mohan, did you get it? Like solar energy, it's like that, right? Soul, got it? Okay, just wanted to make sure. So, but at the end of the night, he fell asleep a little bit, and that boy came to him in a dream, same boy, and told him who he was. He said, "My name is Gopal. And here, this is my village." It's actually the village of Anayor where this happened. And in my village, he actually told him this before, in my village no one fasts. But he said that my form, he didn't express it in the form of a deity, but my form is there. And I want you to, I've been observing you, he said. And this one, I remembered that very clearly. That really struck me, that Krishna had been observing Madhavendra Puri. In fact, Krishna is called the Upadrashta. He's the overseer and the Anumanta, the permitter. He oversees everything. He observes everything, everyone, at all times. And he could do this effortlessly. He doesn't have a big staff to keep track of everything and write everything down. This is all done by Krishna's unlimited Shakti, Achintya Shakti. So he's observing. What do you think Krishna is looking for as he is observing? And is observing. He's looking to see if anyone wants to turn to him. This is Krishna as the Supersoul. Does anyone want to turn to me? In the Swatasvatara Upanishad, it describes it's like two birds sitting in a tree, the Jivatma and the Paramatma. And the Jivatma in the tree, meaning the tree of his body, he's eating the fruit that's available in his particular, with his particular karma, with his particular fate. And everyone's fate is mixed. Even if one is on the highest of planets in the material world, one's fate is mixed, and even in Swagaloka, which isn't technically the highest of planets, but even if one is on a heavenly planet, one's fate is mixed, that one still must have some fear. One still must have some anxiety. So, the one bird is eating the fruit of his tree, of the tree of his fate, his karma, his body, and he's enjoying and suffering. And the other bird is just watching, observing. And as soon as that bird, the Jivatma, has the desire to turn to the Supersoul, even if it's very, very faint, very small, then Krishna, in the heart, will reciprocate in some way or another to give him an opportunity to get closer. So on one level, that puts a lot of pressure on us. It's like having an examination in school every 5 minutes or something like that, or every minute, but it's not like that. It's life. It's just life and what we want. And therefore, the essence of spiritual life, in one sense, is cultivating a desire, cultivating, increasing. When you think of cultivating, what do you think of? What comes to mind? Murlidhar, what comes to mind?
Farming.
Farming, okay. So what is a farmer? He's also called a cultivator. Why?
He's preparing the ground and planting the seeds.
And then he tends to it, and then what happens to the seed? It sprouts, and then?
Harvest.
Well, it has to grow a little bit between sprouting and harvesting. Otherwise, we don't get any fruit or vegetables or whatever. But yeah, it's the cultivator. He takes care of the land. He plants the seeds. He makes sure it's watered, etc. And it grows. The growing isn't the job of the cultivator. The cultivator, the farmer, can't make the seed grow. That happens by the grace of Krishna. It happens somewhat automatically, one could say, but no, it happens by the grace of Krishna, not automatically. There's nothing automatic. It happens by the grace of Krishna. And the farmer provides, he does his part in providing the facility for it. So when one wants to cultivate his spiritual life, if one uses that example to guide us, what do we learn from that?
Prepare the ground.
We prepare the ground. We prepare the ground. We try to remove anartas. What else do we do? We have to water the seed. What else do we have to do? You have to upasakagan.
Make sure there's no insects and bugs.
Oh, that's a really problem, I can tell you that. And moths. Because the moths bring caterpillars. And caterpillars just eat everything. They they eat everything. Yes, but there's one other thing.
Weeds?
Exactly. Weeds. Have you been reading a lot of books? Maybe, I'm not telling her secrets. Okay. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. So, but the growing of the bhakti, it happens, one could say, quite naturally, but really it happens by, if one cultivates properly, but it really happens by Krishna's grace. Meaning Krishna's affection for the devotee, the soul, because naturally, aham bija pada pita, naturally, Krishna has a loving relationship with every single soul. Does it feel like that to you? Does it feel like that to you, that Krishna has affection and love? That wasn't an answer that I wanted everyone to raise their hand and say yes or no, or sometimes, or something like that. But it's an introspective question that doesn't require an external answer, but requires an internal thinking about it. So Madhavendra Puri, going back to Krishna's words to him, that I've been observing you, and he's observing means, let's see what Madhavendra Puri wants, or let's see what the Jiva soul wants. And Madhavendra Puri, it was clear what he wanted. He wanted to serve Krishna with great devotion, and he didn't want anything else. So Krishna, he gave himself to Krishna, and Krishna gave himself to Madhavendra Puri. And he came to him, and he gave him a great, great, great gift. And that great gift was, one could say, his personal darshan, he appeared before him personally, but he gave him another great gift, which in one sense is a greater gift, because in that gift Krishna is there, and as Murli was very eager to say, it was service, but not service, not work. It was devotional service. He gave him an opportunity to serve him. And this is the natural position of the soul that feeds the soul, that nourishes the soul, that gives the soul the satisfaction that he longs for. And this is how Prabhupada initially translated for the very new devotees. When he translated the Mahamantra, he translated it as, O Lord, O energy of the Lord, please engage me in your service, or please allow me to serve you. This is what I've been lacking for countless births. I've been looking for the person whose service is going to fulfill the part of me that's missing. Please allow me to serve you. So Krishna gave Madhavendra Puri personally, he gave him service, and that's what we're going to read right now. After Krishna left in the dream, Madhavendra Puri he disappeared from the dream, he began to lament. I saw Krishna directly, but I could not recognize him. Thus he fell down on the ground in ecstatic love. Now, how is it possible that Madhavendra Puri didn't recognize Krishna? He's been thinking about Krishna, he wants to serve Krishna, and then Krishna comes and he doesn't recognize him. How is that possible?
I don't know.
Those three words are very hard to say. Thank you for saying them. Anyone? Okay, we'll ask, you can guess. You'd say, I can guess. Those are also three words. Just for the sake of the... Yes?
He was very ecstatic.
He was ecstatic. That's interesting.
Yogamaya.
Yeah, he was covered. Yogamaya Samavita. That he was Krishna didn't let him recognize him. Because Krishna was in the mood of a coward boy. And then if someone said, oh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead had come. Oh, he's here. Like when Indra or Nalakuvara Manigriva, or Brahma, when they were in Braja, they couldn't stay because their mood wasn't compatible with the mood that Krishna wanted. But in any case, he left. And Madhavendra Puri didn't recognize him, but he lamented. He fell down on the ground in ecstatic love, meaning that he felt separation from Krishna. In ecstasy, oh, only if I could see Krishna again. I could offer him this, I could offer that, but just missing Krishna. And then Madhavendra Puri cried for some time in separation from Krishna, in ecstasy. But then he fixed his mind on executing the order of Gopal. And this point is very subtle and very important. And this comes up also described in the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, when I think it was Daruka. Who was Daruka? Chariot driver. You know what chariots cry? You know what comes out when chariots cry? Chariot tears. Of course, everyone knows that. Sorry, I even got Jimmy to smile with that one. It was just ridiculous. I couldn't get Sonu to smile, though. Yes, he's always smiling. Who saw that one coming? Linda probably saw that one coming.
It was very nice.
But he fixed his mind. So when Dwaraka was fanning Krishna, he became ecstatic. Because there he was in Krishna, serving Krishna, he became ecstatic. And when he became ecstatic, there are so many ways that ecstasy can manifest itself. One way is you can become stunned, another way is you can become crying, another way is you can fall to the ground. And when he understood that he was becoming ecstatic, and that ecstasy would interfere with his service to Krishna, which was fanning Krishna, he checked his ecstasy. So similarly, Madhavendra Puri, understanding that the most important thing is to serve Krishna more than my own ecstasy, and that shows, that brings up such an important point, that if one serves Krishna, one becomes ecstatic. So does one serve Krishna to get the ecstasy? And the answer is no. Because when there's a choice between serving Krishna and feeling ecstatic oneself, then one chooses naturally to serve. And that choice shows how selfless devotees are. Selfless, not that they don't have a self, but selfless in the sense that of unselfish, that they even sacrifice their own ecstatic feelings to please Krishna by performing the service that will please him the most. So devotional service is considered so exalted. It's the highest peak on the mountain of altruism, of dedicated service for others. So then, after fixing his mind on executing the order of Gopal, he became tranquil. What does tranquil mean? Now I'm going to teach you a word today. No, I'm going to teach you, but others will teach you. What does tranquil mean? Now, because as soon as you hear it, I'm going to ask you what tranquil means. You ready? But you haven't heard it yet, so you don't have to worry. But you just have to listen. What does tranquil mean? Raise your hand. Yes.
Like calm and peaceful.
Okay. What does tranquil mean? Okay, say it again.
Calm and peaceful.
Calm and peaceful.
Calm and peaceful. Very good. What does tranquil mean?
Calm and peaceful.
Yeah. Do you feel tranquil right now?
Yes.
Very good. What's another way to say calm and peaceful? What word? Tranquil? Okay. What's another way to say calm and peaceful? And what are two words that like tranquil? Tranquil means calm and peaceful. Yes, you've gotten it. What a A+ student. But at the end of class, you better write it down in your book, because I'm going to ask you after, how do you, another word for calm and peaceful, and you can say tranquil. You want to know how to spell it? You ask Lalita Manzori, she'll tell you. So after taking his morning bath, he became tranquil, and then after bathing in probably Govindakund, Madhavendra Puri entered the village. What village was it? The village of Anayor, and assembled all the people. Then he spoke as follows. The proprietor of this village, Gramera Ishwara Tomar, the proprietor of your village, Govardhana Dhari, he who holds Govardhan Hill, Kunjayache, that he's in a nearby Kunj. Chale, let's go. And let us go and take him out. Mahire Kori. Let's go and take him out. The bushes are very dense, and we will not be able to enter the jungle, therefore take choppers and spades to clear the way. And after hearing this, now Madhavendra Puri hadn't been there before, he didn't check. But Gopal had taken him by the hand. Krishna in the dream had taken him by the hand. Did you ever have a dream where Krishna took you by the hand? Prasudama? Did you have a dream where Krishna took you by the hand, held your hand? You don't remember. He's not going to admit it. Maybe tonight you will. And he showed him, and Madhavendra Puri didn't go first to check. He completely trusted that experience because he had experienced it. He knew it was Krishna. So after hearing this, all the people accompanied Madhavendra Puri with great pleasure. Harise, with great pleasure. And according to his directions, where he brought them, they cut down bushes, cleared a path, and entered the jungle. When they saw the deity, who is Gopal, Srinathji, covered with dirt and grass, they were all struck with wonder and pleasure. Anande Vishmita. They were struck with wonder and pleasure. And after they had cleaned the body of the deity, some of them said, the deity, because he's made out of stone, he's very heavy, no single person can move him. So what do you think they should do about that? Yes?
And they should work together.
They worked together. They called some people who had that physical strength also. Some of the stronger men assembled to carry him. And they were all, anyone who got who was involved in the service, they were also happy to do this. Even though it was work on one level, it was service to the Supreme Lord. And because they were pious, exalted souls, they had the opportunity to serve Madhavendra Puri, they had the opportunity to serve Gopal. So they came to carry them to the top of the hill, and Madhavendra Puri also went there. He didn't carry the deity himself because, why?
He wasn't so physically strong.
Yeah, because after all, that wasn't he wasn't made for that. He was a renunciant, a tapasi. A big stone was made into a throne, and the deity was installed upon it, was placed upon it. Another big stone was placed behind the deity for support. All the Brahmin priests of the village gathered together with 9 water pots, and water from Govindakund lake was brought there and filtered. Why was it filtered?
Purity.
Purity. Does that mean that it wasn't pure? The water from Govindakund?
Become more pure.
If it's pure, how can it become more pure? It's either pure or not pure.
It is a feeling of, it is showing the concern and the care for it.
Either that or the water was there and filtered so that any sand or anything like that may be there would be taken out, because the sand, the dust of Braj is also pure, and the water is also pure, and the rocks are also pure. But when you're pouring water, you don't want those other type of items to be mixed with the water, because say if there's some stones and you're pouring it on the deity, it won't be comfortable. Or if there's sand in there, and no. When the deity was being installed, 900 pots of water were brought from Govindakund. There were musical sounds of bugles and drums and the singing of women. So it turned immediately into a festival. Immediately it turned into a festival, because the people were so happy that Krishna had come in the form of Gopal, Srinathji. And that's an occasion for a festival. What would you describe a festival as? How would you describe a festival in a simple way?
Mood of celebration and happiness.
Yeah. What other words come to your mind when you think of a festival?
Hearing song and dance.
Yes. Yes. A joyous celebration is what I was thinking. And it includes the dancing and the music and etc., etc. And what to speak of prasadam. Yes. But the prasadam comes a little bit later. During the festival at the installation ceremony, some people sang and some danced. All the milk, yogurt, and clarified butter in the village was brought to the festival. Now, what comes to your mind when you hear that?
Sweets.
Ari Gujarati. But when everyone brought everyone brought whatever milk, yogurt, and clarified ghee, clarified butter was in the village was brought. They were so happy. They emptied their houses they were so happy in the festival of welcoming Gopal. Isn't that astounding? I think it's astounding. But this is the mood of spontaneous love. No one said, no one had to, it was just completely natural for them to do that. Why was it natural? Because they had so much love naturally for the Lord. And Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says, various foods and sweetmeats here, the sweets, but first they have to be offered to Gopal. As well as other kinds of presentations were brought there. And Kaviraj Goswami says, I am unable to describe them all. The villagers brought a large quantity of tulsi leaves, flowers, and various kinds of garments, clothes. What were they going to do with the clothes? They would dress Gopal. What does tranquil mean?
Calm and peaceful.
Yes, very good. A++. What's another word for calm and peaceful? Very good. A+++. Then, after the garments were all there and the yogurt and everything was ready, Madhavendra Puri, Sri Madhavendra Puri personally began the Abhishek, the bathing ceremony. And Srila Prabhupada has a short purport here describing what an Abhishek is like from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. The deity should be bathed in water that is mixed with yogurt and milk, accompanied by the sounds of conch shells, bells, and other instruments. And also the chanting of the mantra, Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namaha, as well as the chanting of Brahma Samhita verses beginning Chintamani Prakara Sadmasukaupa Briksha Laksha Vate Shusurabir Abhibhaliyantam. That's Prabhupada's purport. Is that what happens in the Abhisheks at the temple? Mostly, yes. After all inauspicious things were driven away by chanting of the mantra, Amangala Dure Kari, far away by the chanting of the mantras, the deity's bathing ceremony began. First, the deity was massaged with a large quantity of oil so that his body became very glossy. Glossy means shiny. After the first bathing, further bathings were conducted with Panchagavya and then with Panchamrita. Then the Mahasnana was performed with ghee and water, which had been brought in 100 pots. And Prabhupada in his purports describes some of these elements that are used in the bathe the deity. The ingredients of Panchagavya are milk, yogurt, ghee, cow urine, and cow dung. All these items come from what animal? Yes, A+++++. Therefore, we can just imagine how important the cow is, since its urine and stool are required for bathing the deity. The Panchamrita consists of 5 kinds of nectar: yogurt, milk, ghee, honey, and sugar. The major portion of this preparation also comes from the cow. To make it more palatable, sugar and honey are added. So after the Mahasnan, the great bathing ceremony was finished. The deity was again massaged with scented oil and his body made glossy. Then the last bathing ceremony was performed with scented water kept within a conch shell. Prabhupada's purport, this is also from the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is, who wrote the Hari Bhakti Vilas, do you know? Sanatana Goswami. And also Gopal Bhatta Goswami. But Sanatana Goswami is given the primary credit. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his commentary on this occasion, quotes from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Barley powder, wheat powder, vermilion powder, urd dal powder, and another powder preparation called avata, made by mixing banana powder and ground rice, are applied to the deity's body with a brush made from the hair at the end of a cow's tail. This produces a nice finish. The oil smeared over the body of the deity should be scented, fragrant. To perform the Mahasnan, at least 2.5 manas, about 24 gallons of water, are needed to pour over the body of the deity. 24 gallons of water. And after the body, continuing with the verse, after the body of the deity was cleansed, he was dressed very nicely with new garments. Then sandalwood pulp, tulsi garlands, and other fragrant flower garlands were placed on the body of the deity. After the bathing ceremony was finished, incense and lamps were burned, and all kinds of food offered before the deity. Yes, specifically it's going to say these foods included yogurt, milk, and as many sweetmeats as were received. So plenty of sweets. The deity was first offered many varieties of food, then scented drinking water in new pots, and then water for washing the mouth. Finally, pan, mixed with a variety of spices, was offered. After the last offering of tambul and pan, Bhogarti was performed. Finally, everyone offered various prayers and then obeisances, falling flat before the deity. The falling flat before the deity means Atma Samarpana. Prabhupada says, or the verse says, means full surrender, a giving of oneself. Atma Samarpana, a giving of oneself, full surrender. As soon as the people of the village had understood that the deity was going to be installed, they had brought their entire stocks of rice, dal, and wheat flour. They brought such a large quantity that the entire surface of the top of the hill was filled. What does this sound like to you? What pictures come to your mind? I was just, let me just make it simpler. Does this sound like a fun festival?
Yes.
And joyous? Yeah. It sounds really, because everyone's hearts, they had completely given everything, their hearts to it. Because if you go to a festival or some kind of a party, but your mind is somewhere else, then you don't participate in the joy of the festival. Or if there's a kirtan going on, and the mind is somewhere else, then one doesn't get the joy of the kirtan in the same way. Of course, some benefit will be there. So during this festival, everyone had completely given themselves, and therefore they were experiencing the joy of Krishna's presence. Ten brahmanas, or the villagers, brought their stock of rice, dal, and flour. The potters of the village, what do you think they brought? Yes. They brought all kinds of cooking pots, and in the morning the cooking began. The Brahmins cooked, 10 Brahmins cooked the food grains, and 5 Brahmanas cooked both dry and liquid vegetables. The vegetable preparations were made from various kinds of spinach, roots, and fruits collected from the forest. And someone made some bara and badi by mashing dal. In this way, the Brahmanas prepared all kinds of food. 5 to 7 men had prepared a huge quantity of chapatis, ruti kore. They made some rotis, huge quantities. How many do you think that is?
Enough to Krishna to eat.
Yeah, yes. More another way, you could say so many. Too many chapatis they made. So many chapatis. And the chapatis were sufficiently covered with ghee, as were all the vegetables, rice, and dal. All the cooked rice, there were no health diets at all. All the cooked rice was stacked on palasa leaves, which were on new cloth spread over the ground. Around the stack of cooked rice were stacks of chapatis, and all the vegetables and liquid vegetable preparations were placed in different pots and put around them. So there was cloth and then pots, and all on the ground right in front of Gopal. Brahmins are cooking, 10 Brahmins are cooking there. I can't remember how many. Does anyone remember how many were making chapatis?
5 to 7.
Yes. Should I check on that? No, just accept it. And then pots of yogurt, milk, buttermilk, and sikarini. Sweet rice, cream, and salad cream were placed alongside of the vegetables. In this way, the Annakuta ceremony was performed, and Sri Madhavendra Puri personally offered everything to Gopal. Now, what is the Annakuta ceremony?
Food feast.
But what is it specifically referred to? Because remember where this is. Where is this being performed? In Anayor at Govardhan. And the land between Govardhan village, or a little up further maybe, and the village of Anayor is called Anukut Ketra, if you're Bengali, or Chetra. Because there, 5,000 years ago, before Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill, they had a great ceremony. And in this great ceremony, they brought all kinds of food, and it was offered to Giriraj Govardhan. And then they all the Brijbasis and the cows circumambulated the hill. But that whole land, which is approximately 3 kilometers, was filled with mountains of rice and ghee. Ghee was like lakes, and this cooked this and cooked that. And so this was like a second Annakuta ceremony. What do you think?
I think that's a lot of boga.
Huh?
That's a lot of food.
It's a lot of food. And there weren't so many monkeys there to come and give trouble at this time. And Madhavendra Puri personally offered everything to Gopal. He personally, with great devotion, offered everything to Gopal. And many water pots were filled with scented water for drinking, and Lord Sri Gopal, who had been hungry for many days, ate everything offered to him. And although Sri Gopal ate everything offered, still by the touch of his transcendental hand, everything remained as before. In other words, there was going to be prasadam for distribution. And Prabhupada gives quite a purport on about how amazing it is that the deity can eat and still the prasadam is there for the devotees to have the remnants of. But we'll speak about that next time. I don't know, there's this one story, I don't know if it's really true, but I heard it so many years ago, but it's so funny, I'll tell you anyway. I may have told, you can tell me after if you've heard me tell this before. In one of the temples, one of the early temples, I think it was Los Angeles, at the Sunday feast, there were many guests who didn't know anything about Krishna consciousness. So the devotees were going to offer this big silver plate of bhoga to the deity, Rukmini Dwakadish. And on that silver plate there were many silver bowls, and there was, what was there? Do you know what there was chutney, there was puris, there was a few sabzis, there was sweets, it was incredible. So the devotees were carrying it. You've heard me tell this story? Yeah. They were carrying it to the altar to offer it. And although it's not supposed to be done in that way, I guess the better way to tell the story then is after it was offered, they were carrying it out. And one of the guests said, "Who is that plate of food for?" And the person carrying it said, "That's for the deity." And the guest said, "How long do you have to be here before you become a deity?" I don't know if it's a true story, but it's so funny, it doesn't make any difference. You like that story? Okay, thank you. We'll end here. Any questions or comments? We started a little late, but we'll go just little late. If there's any questions or comments. Yes.
Does it mention how many people there were in the festival?
Well, all the people in the village attended. What caused you to ask that question?
Because I was just wondering, like it said there were like 5 people cooking this, 10 people cooking that, and then it strikes that there was so much of everything. So I was wondering like how they would have done so much, how they would have cooked so much.
And who would eat it after, too? Yes? So were you wondering more about how they have cooked so much, or who would eat it after?
How they would have cooked so much.
Okay. Because I was wondering how would they have eaten it all? And what would be your answer to that?
They were very hungry.
Well, my answer would be especially in Vrindavan, if you're distributing prasadam, no matter how much you have, there's enough people to take it. And people will come, walk, even wealthy people will walk miles, kilometers and kilometers to get some prasadam in Vrindavan, some holy prasadam. But your question is, how did they cook it all? Well, other people cooked, too. Not the 5 but you can, if you have even 4 to 7 people cooking chapatis, was it? 5 to 7 cooking chapatis. So if they're expert cooks and they're all going, see, did you ever see them do this? There's one person going like this, and then passing it to the next person who puts it on the thing, and one person's kneading the dough, and it really goes quickly. You can make too many chapatis. Okay, any other questions? Yes?
I was wondering with the instruction that when Krishna appeared in Madhavinda Puri's dream, and he said, "In my village nobody fasts here."
I think he actually said that in person.
In person.
I think so, I had that.
So, how do we relate that to? Is it also an instruction that we should consider? Like who's being,
Are you looking for a way to get out of fasting?
No, but I just know, from what I've observed, my only observation is our Papa, when he's there, he's completely austere with his practice, with his sort of, trying to understand.
So, because there's many principles and instructions on how to go forward in one's spiritual life. So one has to know which instruction to apply when. So as a general principle, in Vrindavan, if you're hungry, people will feed you. You just walk through a village and people invite you into their house. This is the culture. It has such a sweetness to it. And they'll just invite you in. Has that happened to you?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just so wonderful. So no one has to fast there because they don't have anything to eat. But if someone is performing some particular type of vrata, they can certainly do that. There's so many where fasting is recommended in Shastra, Janmastami, Kadasi, and even in Kartik vrata, many people only eat once a day or things like that. I don't know if I answered your question.
You do.
Okay. Yes.
The mantra that's chanted melodiously, is that for removing spiritual obstacles?
No. It didn't mention what that mantra was for removing obstacles. It just said the mantra was chanted and it mentioned the... But you were asking about what the mantra was, or it didn't mention it. The mantra for removing spiritual obstacles is what?
Mangala Charan and Panchatattva mantra.
And Hare Krishna mantra. Yeah. The Panchatattva mantra, that was good. Good answer too. Okay. Did you have a question? No. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Sri Madhavendra Puripada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Tagore Premanande.